The following is an exclusive presentation of Turner Sports.
The Atlanta Braves got this important series with the Montreal Expos off to a quick start yesterday, using the long ball to set the tone and give Steve Avery enough support to shut down the Expos. Tonight, the task gets tougher for Montreal as Greg Maddux goes for his fourth straight victory.
Best, folks. He is the best. Got it.
That ball is gone. A home run for Chipper Jones. The Atlanta Braves have brought the first championship to Atlanta.
With a 4-game lead over the Montreal Expos, tonight the Atlanta Braves meet Montreal in Game 2 of a 3-game series. Hi, everybody. Pete Van Weren welcoming you to Olympic Stadium in Montreal, where the big news today, the announcement of the All-Star teams. The ballot winners were announced yesterday. Today it was the pitching staff and the reserves who were picked by their managers. And for Bobby Cox, he'll be surrounded by a lot of familiar faces. Fred McGriff was voted in, his 4th All-Star appearance. Chipper Jones will be going to his 1st game. John Smoltz his 4th. Greg Maddux his 5th. Tom Glavine his 4th. And the 4th Atlanta pitcher, Mark Wohlers, gets to go to an All-Star game for the first time. And of all the players picked off the Atlanta Braves roster, perhaps the biggest achievement belongs to Chipper Jones, an All-Star in just his 2nd full Major League season. He's down on the field now with Don Sutton.
All right, Pete, thank you very much. Well, Chipper, you got anything exciting planned for next week?
Well, yeah, I'm going to the All-Star game. It's a really happy time for the 6 guys off our ball club that were selected. So just going to go up there and have fun for 3 days.
You've only been in the big leagues now less than 2 years. Is there a great sense of reward for having accomplished this in such a short time?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great honor to be selected as one of the elite in the National League. I've experienced a lot of success in a short time in my brief Major League career. Obviously, winning the World Championship is every player's #1 goal, but certainly an All-Star selection is a close second.
Are you a goal setter, and is this one of the things you wanted to accomplish, maybe before your career was over?
Well, I try to stay away from actual numbers goals, but certainly World Championships and All-Star teams, they keep adding up, and hopefully this won't be my last. It's certainly been a goal of mine.
We were talking about the short time you've been in the big leagues, but 2 years ago you were riding bicycles and lifting weights. This had to be one of the furthest things from your mind.
Well, it seemed really far away just a couple years ago. I mean, having a major knee injury and potentially threatening my career, it made me sit back and think and wonder if this day would ever come, and I just thank God that it finally has.
Well, enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
I will. Thank you.
All right, we're going to come back to Olympic Stadium, get Game 2 of the series underway after we take a break.
Atlanta Braves Baseball, brought to you by Beechwood Aged Budweiser, official sponsor of the 1996 U.S. Olympic team. For a clean, crisp taste you won't find in any other beer, this Bud's for you. And by Delta Airlines, the official airline of the 1996 Olympic Games.
Another good crowd gathering here tonight at Olympic Stadium as we get set for Game 2 of the series. Time for our starting lineup, brought to you by Manny Moe and Jack the Pep Boys. For the Braves, Marquise Grissom will lead it off. Mark Lemke in the 2 spot, Chipper Jones to hit 3rd. Fred McGriff for the cleanup hitter. Ryan Klesko with bat 5. Jermaine Dye will follow Klesko. Eddie Perez catches, he will hit 7th. The shortstop in batting 8th is Jeff Blauser. And Greg Maddux will complete the batting order for Bobby Cox. The Expos will send this defense to the turf. Rodriguez in left, Floyd in center, Alou in right. Segui at first, Lansing second, Grizzolanek is the shortstop, and Shane Andrews over at 3rd. Darren Fletcher, the left-handed hitter catcher, will be behind the plate and on the mound making his 17th start of the year. He does have 1 complete game, a 3-5 record. Rheal Cormier. He's allowed 6 home runs, the league hitting .277 against him. A fastball, a tailing fastball, a curveball, a changeup, and a split finger. So he, like some pitchers in the National League, use 2 off-speed pitches. He throws a pretty hard split finger. If it's working and really dives down and away. He would much rather play a night game, and if you check that column on the right, that pretty much sums it up there. In the 5-day games, he's yet to win, and he's giving up a touchdown a game, but he knocks 5 points off his ERA when he goes out there at night. Umpiring crews, they move up 90 feet. Here's how they will line up for Game 2 of the series. That's Paul Nauert. He'll be calling the balls and strikes. Greg Bonet at first. Frank Pulley, lively Frank Pulley down at second, and Larry Poncino over at third. Good crowd here yesterday, and a very exciting win for the Braves. The Braves, who had struggled down in Florida, getting in here in the wee hours and coming out, served early warning they were going to handle the Expos. 4-run second inning, and then all of a sudden, bingo, Steve Avery made it stand up along with some help from McMichael and Wohlers. Marquise Grissom, Pete, I think that if he could do this well against every club he's traded from, he'd like to go through 13 trades. He has worn out the Expos.
It's been absolutely amazing. He had another hit, a home run against them yesterday. He's now hitting .520 lifetime against Montreal. 26 out of 50 with 2 homers since the trade. Cormier's first pitch of the night, a called strike in the inside corner. We are underway from Olympic Stadium. Here's the 0-1 on the way, and he lines one foul up into the seats off to the right. 0-2.
Got to be a thrill for Cormier pitching in the big leagues for Montreal. He is a native son from Canada. Originally with the Cardinals, then through Boston, along with Mark Whitney went to Boston, and came here in a deal that sent Will Cordero to the Sox.
Misses outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Lemke will follow, then Chipper Jones. Here's the 1-2 on the way. Grissom just got a piece of that one. Still a ball and 2 strikes. Cormier's best year was with the Cardinals back in '92. He had a 10-game victory season that year. He was 10-10 with a .368 run average. Looked like at that point he was on the way to becoming a solid starter with St. Louis. Then he had some arm troubles, set him back some. High in the air foul, back out of play by Grissom. Still a ball and 2 strikes on Marquise. Cormier, a native of New Brunswick. Here's the 1-2 now to Grissom, and he struck him out. Ball dropped by Fletcher. He'll have to throw him out down to first. 1 gone. So a good start tonight for Montreal as Cormier fans Marquise Grissom to get the game underway, and that'll bring up Mark Lemke.
First breaking ball that he threw him, bounced it right on top of the plate. That's a good spot to put a 2-strike pitch. Look at the thing go down right on top of the plate after looking at fastballs and change-ups. Hard to lay off one.
Here's Lemke hitting .284 with 4 homers, hitless in the game yesterday. Cormier's first delivery, and it's bounced over his glove. The shortstop Grzelcyk up and over to first. Got him. Looked like Cormier might have a play on that. When he didn't, Grzelcyk had to really hurry to get Lemke by a half a step at first. 2 down.
Most of the time when a ball comes back up the middle like this, Pete, if you're the pitcher, you're better off leaving it alone. You got better chance of having one of your infielders, but instincts take over, and he just tipped it just enough to slow it down. Good off-balance play by Grzelcyk. And Lemke made this close by hustling and not jumping at the bag. You notice how he kept his normal stride. You jump, you lose speed. Guys who get there quicker are the ones that run straight through the bag, not to the bag.
And now Chipper Jones, one of 6 Braves selected for the National League All-Star team today. Very excited about it. He and Mark Wohlers both going for the first time, and that's always a great thrill. It's a thrill to be selected any year, no matter how many times you've gone, but that first one is the one that you never forget.
And I hear guys say occasionally, well, I'd like the days off. That's a bunch of bull. If you get a chance to go to an All-Star game, there isn't a human being in his right mind who has a pulse that doesn't want to go there and be a part of it. It is exciting. It's a chance to spend 2 days with people you try to beat all year. You're listed among the elite, the festivities, the game itself. If you don't get goosebumps, check the obits, you're in them.
And the moment that you would like to be walking right behind Chipper Jones is the moment that he walks into that All-Star clubhouse and just looks around at all those names on the lockers. That's when it really hits you as to what you've accomplished. Moises Alou out in right field makes the catch. A 1-2-3 start for Rheal. Cormier. Braves go in order. In the top half of the first inning, no score from Montreal.
Start with the global resources of CNN, add the style and savvy of Sports Illustrated, and you get what the Associated Press calls a blockbuster. CNN SI, the 24-hour sports news network.
1-2-3 inning for the Braves. Now it's the Expos' turn. Quickly, let's run through their starting lineup. Grizzolanek to lead it off. Lansing in the 2 spot. Henry Rodriguez third. Alou, Fletcher, and Segui make up the heart of the lineup. Floyd, Andrews, and Cormier completed defensively. Dye, Grissom, and Klesko right to left. McGriff, Lemke, Blauser, and Jones first to third. Eddie Perez behind the plate. And on the mound, start number 19. He has won 3 in a row. He has been exceptional his last 3 starts. 8-5 at .283. The league hitting .239 against Greg Maddux.
And facing fellow All-Star Mark Grizzolanek to lead things off. And there's a strike in the outside corner. Grizzolanek 322. He's in a little bit of a skid right now. Just 1 for his last 18. He got that hit in the game yesterday. Rounds this one by Fred McGriff into right field for a base hit. A leadoff single now. Jermaine Dye throwing back to Greg Maddux at the bag at first. Nearly got Mark Grizzolanek. How's that for a heads-up play, both by Maddux and Dye?
Maddux does this a lot. The fun thing to watch is the youngster in right field having the game in front of him and keeping a chance at getting an out in front of him. Off the end of the bat by McGriff. Maddux always heads to the side, comes up, takes a look, turns towards second. This is close. You never find Greg Maddux standing around sightseeing when the ball is in play.
And you got to tip your hat to Jermaine Dye. It's such a routine play that an outfielder normally makes to pick up a ball like that and immediately get it back to second base. But he picked up on Greg Maddux's location immediately and nearly got the runner returning to the bag. Now Mike Lansing stepping in and taking a strike. Lansing having a good year. .310 with 5 homers, 28 RBIs.
It's a good hit and run man too. And when you're going against the Braves, you'll see a lot of ball clubs try to strike early, do something different, maybe create a little havoc on the base pass. And we've seen Philippe Alou do it more than once against the Braves.
Nobody out. Grizzolanek at first. He has 15 stolen bases this year. That leads the Expos. He is going on the pitch. Ground ball right side. Lemke stayed home and the ball was hit right to him. Over to first in time. Grizzolanek winds up at second base. 1 out.
Good defense by the Braves. You know Lansing wants to go the other way with the guy on the move. They left Lemke at home, had Blauser covered. If Lemke had covered, then the Expos would have him at the corners. It still accomplished what they wanted. They moved up Grizzolanek 90 feet. I guess I should say it accomplished part of what they wanted.
Now the left fielder, Henry Rodriguez, 293, 25 homers and 69 RBIs. He is one of the many players in both the National and American League with all-star credentials that got squeezed out of an all-star berth this year. And it's back up the middle, off Maddux again. Rolling into foul territory, Perez runs it down. Looks the runner back to third. Let's see if Maddux is all right. He got nailed his last start on a ball hit back up the middle. And after 7 innings came out of the game. Now let's see where this one got him. He looks like he's all right, but Jeff Porter on his way out along with Bobby Cox to see.
Inside out off the left shin. And Maddux has got to quit wearing the uniform with the bullseye on it. He's worn that his last 2 ball games, and he's taken some pretty good shots. And both times, Pete, I think he's been fortunate. Take a look at this last week. He's fortunate he didn't get a kneecap here. He is fortunate he didn't get a shin bone last week on the inside of the right thigh. And the amazing thing, he makes this play.
And we've seen it happen to him. It's not just this year, it's every year. He has so many balls that are hit right back at him that either are fielded by him or by his second baseman or shortstop. And he gets more than his share of those that glance off a leg or an arm or a shoulder. But he indicated to Jeff Porter he's all right. He has runners, though, at first and third with one down, and Moises Alou, the hitter.
I'll tell you about Greg Maddux. Unless there was a bone sticking through, he would indicate to Jeff Porter that he's all right.
Alou batting .256, 11 homers, and 49 runs driven in. First and third, one down. We'll talk about the All-Star selections as we go along here. We mentioned briefly about Henry Rodriguez, second in the league in home runs, not making the team. Well, you can't pick everybody. And there are always going to be players who have credentials to go to the game who can't be picked because you've got to pick a player from every team, number one. See if anybody has a play on this ball in foul territory. They don't. And the count on Alou 0-1. But you only have 28 spots. 8 of them are voted on by the fans, so you only got 20 spots to fill. And you have to make sure each team is represented by one player. And it makes the selection process a very political hotcake. You know you're going to make some unpopular choices. You know you're going to make some surprising choices. Players who didn't expect to go to the All-Star game who will be. And there was a lot of speculation that Rodriguez was a cinch. In fact, he was third in the balloting until the last day of the balloting when Dante Bichette nosed him out.
Sometimes for a guy like Rodriguez, too, that is a real shot in the arm for the second half of the season.
Into right field, base hit Alou. And the Montreal Expos going the other way on Greg Maddux, take a 1-0 lead. Alou driving in his 50th run of the year.
You said something very key there, going the other way. They're not trying to pull Greg Maddux at all. That was a definite inside out, hit it to right field swing. Watch his momentum go towards second. The back foot slid out a little bit. He was definitely trying to hit that to the right side.
Third hit of the inning off Maddux. And the batter will be Darren Fletcher, the catcher, hitting .269 with 7 homers. And 39 runs driven in. A red-hot hitter of late, 16 for his last 30. So the Expos already on the board here in the bottom half of the first inning on 3 first-inning hits. Remember, Greg Maddux had only given up 1 run in his last 3 starts. Ball 1 low to Fletcher. 1 man out. And that catches the outside corner. 1 ball, 1 strike now on Fletcher.
The league hitting .239 against Maddux. Pretty even. Right-handers are hitting .244. Lefties .234. It's a changeup that makes that 10-point difference against the lefties.
Now the 1-1 on the way, and it's brick foul down the right side up into the crowd. A ball and 2 strikes on Fletcher.
Do you get the feeling the Expos are going up there today picking out a spot that they're going to want the ball in, and if they don't get it there, they're going to take it. If they get it there, they're like Alou was looking for something away to hit to right field.
So was Grizzolanek leading off the game.
And Lansing was too. I think Fletcher here is looking for something inside. He's seen the fastball in on the hands and cut away from him. If Maddux can make the change up or the pitch away, he's letting him have it.
Maddux ahead in the count now, 1-2. And the 1-2 on the way, and it is a 3rd strike swinging. I didn't know whether he had foul tipped that ball initially or not when it popped out of Perez's glove, but apparently he didn't. It's a strikeout for Maddux, and that's out number 2 here in the bottom half of the first.
I think Maddux and Perez talked about location when they came out, because if you see, Eddie Perez has set up inside on Fletcher. It might be that the runner at second was tipping location. He set up inside right under him, and then Maddux went to the change-up away. So if they're trying to relay location from the runner at second, that's a good way to foul him up.
2 gone. That'll bring up David Segui, the first baseman, hitting .284 with 5 homers. Into the crowd, 0-1. Montreal 4 games back of Atlanta now. Both managers trying to downplay the importance of this series, saying it's way too early in the year to call it a big series, but both managers understand the significance of each and every one of these games. A 2-game swing. You win one, you pick up a game on the team that you're trying to beat out for the division crown. One ball, one strike. 2 men out, 1 run in for the Expos here in the bottom half of the first inning. The 1-1 delivery is fouled off by Segui. It's a ball and 2 strikes now. There are your runners. Alou at first, Rodriguez down at second. Funny swing by Segui. He got a piece of it, though. I don't know how. It remains 1 and 2.
He was a keeper of the wicket there. The bowler tossed him one down low. Would you buy a used car from that pretzel vendor?
I have nothing to say. I can't think of a single word to describe.
Neither could I, and I should have kept it that way.
Here's the 1-2 on the way. Soft roller out toward short. Blauser will go on to first. High throw. McGriff pulled off the bag. Everybody's safe. You may wonder why Blauser just didn't go to second. Well, Alou, with runners at first and second, had such a big lead over at first that it would have been a bang-bang play at second base. That ball was not hit that sharply. So Blauser decided to go ahead and throw on to first, and he threw high.
He may have had a little more time than he thought. See, he side-wheeled that, and it took off. He had a full 2 steps to play with there on Segui. Here's the throw from the side, and see it sail just like a Frisbee. Before McGriff could get back down, Segui had made it.
And now Cliff Floyd will bat. He takes inside, ball 1. Floyd out in center field for the Expos tonight, hitting .259, 2 homers, 8 RBIs. His second home run of the year was a 3-run pinch hit homer that beat the Phillies on Sunday. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Good changeup. 1 ball, 1 strike. That was the 20th error of the year for Jeff Blauser. Now the 1-1. Missing inside. 2-1 the count on Floyd. Gets away from Perez, but not far enough for the runners to move up. The count even, 2-2. Henry Rodriguez at third, Moises Alou at second, and David Segui over at first now.
Bases loaded. The Expos are no strangers to this situation, and Pete, they have come through with some slams. 2, 4, 6, that's 7. Including 2 by Segui, Fletcher, and Andrews.
And notice that the Andrews, Fletcher, and Segui grand slams all came in April. That's all for Floyd. He's out of there on strikes. Maddux leaves the bases loaded. The error does not hurt, but the 3 hits do. 1 run is in. It's 1-0 Montreal.
Little free advertising. This telecast is authorized under broadcasting rights granted by the Atlanta National League Baseball Club and is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, retransmission of the pictures or descriptions of this game without the express written consent of the Atlanta National League Baseball Club is prohibited.
Fred McGriff leads off here in the top of the second, right at 300, 19 homers and 64 runs driven in. Takes ball 1 from Cormier. McGriff voted as the starting National League All-Star first baseman. Very close balloting. He just nosed out Jeff Bagwell of Houston. Andres Galarraga finished a strong third. Up and in 2-0. In case you wonder where some of the other Braves finished, Javi Lopez, number 2 among catchers. Mark Lemke was 4th among second basemen. Jeff Blauser 5th among shortstops. Chipper Jones 3rd among third basemen. David Justice 4th. Ryan Klesko 6th. Marquise Grissom 14th among outfielders. 2-1 the count on Fred McGriff.
You're looking for a place to find some injustice. Run through the list of first basemen.
Yeah,
there's some guys having some great years.
That is low in the count, 3-1. They can only take 2. They took McGriff, who won the balloting, and Jeff Bagwell. You've got Galarraga, Wally Joyner, Mark Grace hitting over 300. David Segui here having a good year.
How about the year John Mabry's
John
having?
Mabry with the Cardinals. On the ground is Segui. He'll flip to Cormier. 1 down. 4 in a row set down now by Rheal Cormier. How about the year Greg Colburn's having with the Florida Marlins? 21-game hitting streak, hitting over 300.
Each ball club has to have one player, and because it is his last year and he is retiring at the end of the year, the National League felt compelled to invite Ozzie Smith, and that probably cost John Mabry a spot on the All-Star team. So you can't please everybody. You said it early on. It is impossible to take everybody that deserves to go.
There's a player with all-star numbers. Ryan Klesko, 296, 22 homers, 52 RBIs. His numbers very close to those of Henry Rodriguez. But he'll have to wait for another year. The pitch outside.
I know we're not going to beat this to death tonight, but it is relevant and pertinent and timely. But something's going to have to be done when they add 2 more ball clubs, too. The roster is going to have to be expanded.
Either the roster is expanded, or I know it's in the good interest of baseball to have a representative from every team, but there are some years when some teams simply don't have a player who is having an all-star type year.
Well, you take away the name of the game. All-star is supposed to be the best in the business, not necessarily the only one from your city or from your team. I never have thought that was in the best interest of baseball.
Here's the 1-2 on the way to Klesko. Struck him out, got it over the outside corner. And Cormier has been sharp. He's retired 5 straight. And the batter will be Jermaine Dye.
Well, it's continuing a trend he brought with him out of the month of June. He was only 1-2, but his earned run average 2.9. And he's showing the Braves 4 exceptional pitches, 2 fastballs, one that he tails away, and that shades of Tom Glavine, and as he painted the inside corner or the outside corner with it.
Jermaine Dye, one of the heroes yesterday, now at .325 for the year with 5 home runs, and he fouls back the first pitch 0-1. How about the compliment Marquise Grissom paid him today?
Yeah, he put him in some good company.
He said he might become the next Dave Winfield. That's pretty strong company for a youngster that's been in the big leagues a little over a month.
And that man right there doesn't throw around a whole lot of compliments.
No, he doesn't.
He's a very quiet guy. That's like getting the good housekeeping seal of approval.
1 ball, 1 strike on Dye. Still hasn't walked in 77 major league at bats. The 1-1 is a breaking ball low and inside, almost hit him. Count goes to 2-1. Expos leading at 1-0. We're in the top half of inning 2. Three and 1 on Jermaine Dye. This might be a first.
I'll bet you if he throws that same pitch, Jermaine Dye will hit it. Put it in play.
The 3-1 on the way. And there is the first walk of Jermaine Dye's major league career.
And he did throw the same pitch, and Jermaine Dye laid off of a close pitch to get ball 4.
Comes in his 78th big league plate appearance.
Look at this pitch. This is close.
Two gone for Eddie Perez with Dye now at first. Perez at .320, 3 homers, 9 RBIs. Drills this one down the left field line. Foul up into the seats. 0-1. Back to first, Jermaine Dye. Cormier looks like his motion is a pretty good one. He doesn't have much of a different kick when he goes to first or when he comes home. Doesn't tip off where he's going. Right back to the pitcher. Cormier throws out Perez, and that's all for Atlanta in the second. The walk is all the Braves get. We go to the bottom half of inning 2. Montreal still leads it 1-0.
Let's take a look at the Hardy's leaderboard. Our category tonight, National League doubles leaders, and the Rockies and the Expos hogging for the top 5 spots. Lansing atop with 27, Rodriguez with 24. Steve Finley completes the 5.
And at the top of baseball in that category, Edgar Martinez of the Seattle Mariners, who at the halfway point of the season has 39 doubles, on a pace to hit 78, which would break the major league record by 11. Mike Lansing on a pace to hit 54 this year, halfway through the year with 27. Shane Andrews going the other way. Little looping fly ball. Late jump by Jermaine Dye. Didn't pick the ball up right away. And it cost him. Base hit for Shane Andrews. And that'll bring up the pitcher, Rheal Cormier.
And once he didn't pick it up right away, Pete, he was smart. You could have very easily played that into a triple if he had come charging in and tried to make the catch, but that first step back cost him the opportunity to make it.
Cormier up in a bunt situation. He has 5 sacrifices this year. Chipper Jones in at third. McGriff will be charging from first. Cormier squares, gets the bunt down right to McGriff. He'll throw him out rather than play any games with Cormier. Why do that, you may ask? Well, you could get so caught up in trying to tiptoe back and forth at one another that the runner can go all the way around to third if you're not careful. One away, runner second. The batter will be Mark Grizzolana. Got a base hit to right to lead off the bottom of the first. Came around to score the game's only run. One ball, no strikes. Fouls this one away. 1-1 the count.
Grizzolana showing you a little bit of a different plan this time up than the first time. He was trying to go the other way. That time he was trying to pull.
Pickoff play on at second as Lemke charges in. Getting back safely, Shane Andrews.
It's almost like Greg Maddux has 5 or 6 antenna out there, because a lot of pitchers get locked into getting hitters out and miss out on opportunities, just like Lemke presented him with.
Off the end of the bat to the right side, McGriff will field. Maddux covers in time to get Grizzolanic moving over to third. Shane Andrews 2 down now with a runner at third, and the batter will be Mike Lansing, who grounded out to second his first time up. Maddux will continue to work from the stretch with the runner at third. 0-1 on Lansing.
51 times this year, Pete, Maddux has faced hitters with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, and he has really made some clutch pitches. The opposition only 6 out of 51. They're hitting less than 120 in this situation.
Andrews is the runner. And it's 0-2 now on Lansing. Lansing just 2 for 17 in his career against Greg Maddux. You saw Greg Maddux take about 4 steps toward the Atlanta dugout, thinking he had struck out Lansing.
And he doesn't do that. Eddie Perez sits there and frames it, holds it for a little extra look. Maddux is not one who would ever show up an umpire, and that wasn't what he wanted to do there.
Back up the middle, Blauser can't get it. Base hit for Lansing. In to score, Shane Andrews. So after thinking he had Mike Lansing struck out, the 1-2 pitch, a little high bouncing ball up the middle that Maddux couldn't reach, nor could Blauser.
Watch this pitch. It's identical to the one that he didn't get the call on, and the first thing Greg Maddux did after that sneaked into center field was sneak a peek back at Paul Nart.
So it's now a 2-0 Montreal lead with Lansing at first, his 29th RBI of the year, and Henry Rodriguez the hitter. Rodriguez singled in the first inning. Hit a shot right back off Greg Maddux. Lansing with 11 stolen bases this year. He's been caught 5 times. A ball and no strikes on Rodriguez. That caught the corner. 1-1. Rodriguez not too thrilled about that call.
Well, take a look. It's a change up. Down and away with movement.
He might have had a reason to sneak a peek back at Paul Nart.
Over to first again. Lansing back safely.
Speaking of sneaking a peek, a couple of times earlier this year, Henry Rodriguez was caught sneaking a peek back at the catcher, and thus far I've been kind of keeping an eye on him tonight, and he hasn't tried it. I'm sure he saw the replays.
Runner going and fighting that one off. Rodriguez fouls it back 1-2.
He had a good jump too.
Might have hurt his back.
One foot on the turf. He does get a good jump. Let's see if we can see anything. He tried to slam on brakes and slide. Looked like he jammed his lower back. May have jammed his hip.
Once you commit the slide, Pete, you're better off sliding even if there is no play.
You see more players get hurt that way. 1-2 pitch is high, 2-2. We saw Pedro Guerrero tear up a knee on the final day of spring training at Vero Beach when the Braves and Dodgers were playing, changing his mind midstream while going into third.
They have washing machines and dryers. The only thing that'll get damaged if you go ahead and slide normally is the uniform.
Here's the 2-2. They pitch out on the 2-2 pitch. Runner was not going. Count full 3-2, but it shows you how much confidence Eddie Perez has in Greg Maddux's control.
Probably shows you how much confidence Jimmy Williams or Bobby Cox has in it, because most of that comes from the dugout, and there aren't many pitchers in baseball you could take the 3-2 with a left-handed power hitter up there and not worry.
Runner going on the 3-2 pitch. He strikes out Rodriguez. That is strikeout number 2 for Greg Maddux, but once again the Montreal Expos put a run on the board, a couple of hits, they leave one. It's 2-0 Montreal after 2.
An old friend back with us for the second half of the season. Advil will be bringing you the scoreboard early in the ballgame. Here's what's already completed or right now in progress. The Giants over Colorado win. Philadelphia and New York early on in a close one. Chicago shutting out Pittsburgh a third of the way through it. Cincinnati and St. Louis just underway. Florida at Houston also just underway. And in the American League, Kansas City by 1 over Cleveland halfway through it. Milwaukee by 1 over Detroit. Ditto, they're halfway tied in Toronto. And there's the rest of the American League scores brought to you by your friends at Advil.
We go to the top of the third. Braves down 2-0, and Jeff Blauser takes the ball low. Blauser 247 with 10 homers this year. If the Braves hitters do the same thing in the second half as they have done in the first half this season, and tonight's game marks the beginning of the second half of the season for Atlanta, Jeff Blauser would hit 20 homers this season. Marquise Grissom would hit 22 homers this season. Chipper Jones would hit 30. Fred McGriff 38, and Ryan Klesko 44. If they duplicate in the second half the home runs they hit in the first half. Cormier falls behind 3-0.
And what Jeff would like to do on the other side is he'd like to cut down on the errors. He'd gone 15 games without one. Now he has 20. That's the most he's ever made at shortstop, Pete. 19 is high coming into tonight's game.
3-1 the count. Andrews guns it across to first in time.
That's a good first half. 21 games over 500 and in the top 3. What we're not used to seeing from the Braves in the last couple of years are the numbers on the offense side. The batting average up to 275, the home run total there. 5.2 runs a game. It's fun to be a pitcher on a ball club that gives you 5 to play with.
Now the pitcher, Greg Maddux, hits and takes a strike in the outside corner. Greg on the year is 4 out of 38, a 105 average. 2 runs, 5 hits for Montreal. No runs or hits yet for Atlanta. 0-1 pitch, breaking ball, drops in there, nothing in 2. High with a fastball, 1 ball, 2 strikes. That is a fair ball right out in front of home plate. Fletcher on to first, 2 down. And first time through the Braves order, Rheal Cormier has been unhittable. He's only allowed 1 base runner, and that was a walk to Jermaine Dye. Now with 2 outs and the bases empty, Marquise Grissom, who struck out in the first inning, will step in.
And only 1 ball hit to the outfield, a fly ball off the bat of Chipper Jones, so he is keeping it down in the strike zone, getting downward movement. 5 ground ball outs and 2 strikeouts.
Low and away to Marquise, ball 1.
You remember when AstroTurf was first put in, everybody said a sinker baller cannot win on AstroTurf. Remember, that was the first thing they said. They wanted to, you've got to get guys who pitch up in the strike zone.
Look at all the ground balls Rheal Cormier has been getting on the turf. 3 outs on 3 infield grounders in the top of the 3rd. We go to the bottom half. Still 2-0 Montreal. Montreal pecking away at Greg Maddux. 3 hits, producing a run in the first inning. 2 more singles, getting another one in the second. Now bottom of the 3rd, Alou leads it off and takes the first one high, ball 1. Alou drove in the first inning run with a single. 1 ball, 1 strike. Catches the outside corner, 1-2.
Pete, another little bit of news about the All-Star game. Apparently the National League will be without Tony Gwynn.
Fouled off, still 1-2.
AP just reporting, Joe Simpson just came over and told us. WSB radio called and let them know that he has his foot's been put in a cast, slight Achilles tear. He'll be out for 4 weeks. So
perhaps the door is open for Henry Rodriguez after all.
Very well be.
Because they will name a replacement for Tony Gwynn if he is unable to perform, just like the American League had to do with Ken Griffey, who led all the outfielders with votes. But he's out of action, so that opened the door for Brady Anderson to become a starter. So we'll keep our ears open on that. We'll probably find out tomorrow. I'm sure Bobby Cox will be in touch with the National League office to name a replacement before tomorrow night's game. Pitch is fouled off. It's still 1-2. Another strikeout for Maddux. That's his 4th of the game. 1 gone here in the bottom half of the 3rd. And it'll bring up Darren Fletcher, who was a strikeout victim in the 1st inning.
Early in the count, was looking for something to pull. Still tried to pull on the changeup. Got the strikeout.
Bouncing ball right side. Lemke runs it down. On to first in time. 2 quick outs here in the bottom of the 3rd. Maddux trying for his first scoreless inning of the night. And David Segui will be the batter he reached on the Blauser error in the 1st inning. Tom Glavine talking about Greg Maddux yesterday, saying he's the most amazing individual he's ever been around as a pitcher because he doesn't care about numbers, about earned run average or wins or losses or strikeouts. He just cares about making pitches. He is obsessed almost with making perfect pitches.
It's a great way to teach somebody, and not everybody has the personality or the ability to grasp that and buy that. So many times public pressure and peer pressure and the fact that numbers are mentioned and won-loss records are mentioned.
Knocked down by Lemke, but he won't have a chance to throw out Segui. And that'll probably go as a base hit.
It would have taken 3 perfect moves for Mark Lemke to throw him out. He would have been able to had to get the glove on it, stop quick, plant, and make a perfect throw. And I'm not sure he could have done all 3. It should be a base hit.
And it will be. Hit number 6 off Maddux. Cliff Floyd, a strikeout victim, his first time up. And he takes strike 1 on the outside corner. But when you think about it, Don, pitchers are measured by wins and by earned run average and by strikeouts.
Exactly.
And by lack of walks. That's the measure of a pitcher, but it's a measure he doesn't care about.
Now, the only thing you can control as a pitcher is whether or not you make the pitches. You can't control whether a guy hits it at somebody, a broken bat single. You can't control a diving stop by your outfielder. Suppose your outfielder had a bad night the night before and he can't catch up to it. You can't control it once it leaves your hand. What happens to it after that? But if you can convince young pitchers or any pitchers that the only thing you can control is how you make the pitches, it sure does take a load off your mind, and it really worked for him.
It's 0-2 now on Cliff Floyd. 2 men out, a runner first. We're in the bottom of the 3rd. Expos leading at 2-0. This one will drift out of play into the box seats behind the Montreal or behind the Atlanta dugout. It's still 0-2.
See, I would have
to take it a step further. Don Liam Mazzoni said he believes that Greg Maddux enjoys side sessions as much as he does pitching in games because he's trying to locate pitches in certain areas, and that if he does it, he's as happy after a good side session as he is after a good outing against the team.
See, I would have no problem if starting pitchers did not have won-loss records, because they're not a true measure of your effectiveness. If you get on a ball club scores a lot of runs, you're going to win. If you get on a ball club that doesn't score many runs, ask Kevin Brown and Al Leiter down in Miami. They pitch well, but are they known as good pitchers? No. Take the won-loss records and throw them out. Give the team the won-loss record. And if you want to measure a pitcher, measure him on innings per start, hits per innings, earned run average, combine those things. But there really is no reason for a starting pitcher to have a won-loss record.
You're going to have a hard time selling that one to baseball fans.
No, I agree, but that's most of what we do is for baseball fans and not for the players anyway.
The 0-2 is high and away. Runner going. Throw to second base. Not in time. Stolen base for David Segui. That is his first of the year. He had been caught 3 times previously.
Let's check his lead. It didn't look like he had that big of a lead. The foot is not out on the turf, but he had a running jump, even had time to sneak a peek. Eddie Perez gets a lot on this throw, skips it there, but a perfect throw I don't think would have gotten Segui with the jump he had.
The 1-2 strikes out Floyd again. Second time he's gone down swinging. That is strikeout number 5 for Greg Maddux. We've completed 3 at Olympic Stadium. 2-0 Montreal. Let's give you tonight's Aflac trivia question before we go to the fourth inning, and here it is. Who holds the Expos record for the most hits by a shortstop in a single season? We'll have the answer for you in the bottom half of the inning. Well, so far, so good for Rheal Cormier. He hasn't allowed a run or a hit, and has issued only one walk.
And not a bad start for Greg Maddux either. He's given up a couple of runs, but Maddux has held him to 6 hits. Cormier will face Lemke to lead it off here in the fourth inning. The first one is a strike, 0-1. Lemke, Jones, and McGriff. I was thinking about this trip up to Montreal, and I see a lot of similarities in a trip that the Braves took in the identical date last year into Philadelphia. Check swing, 0-2. Phillies were leading the Braves then, but I think the Braves went into Philadelphia, took 3 out of 4, and served notice that they were going to be reckoned with. Now, I think coming in here, the shoe a little bit on the other foot. The Expos are chasing, but the Braves would like to come in and establish some territorial claims and leave here with a good trip, just like they did to Philadelphia. And it's ironic that it would be the identical date. 1-2 to Lemke. Lemke 1 out of 11 against the Expo lefty. 2-2. Very quietly having good offensive year. He's still in the 280s. He has 8 doubles, 4 home runs, 20 RBIs. Not afraid to take a walk. He's walked 32 times. He's still hitting over 300 in the number 2 spot. On the ground, another ground ball out. 3 of the last 4 outs, plays made by Shane Andrews at third. And 5 consecutive ground ball outs thrown up there by Rheal Cormier.
You know, your comment an inning ago about the turf when it first came along, everybody thought it was going to be impossible to be a ground ball pitcher and be effective. The big fear was it was so fast that you wouldn't be able to get to many balls. But the upside of the turf is the true hops that you get.
Exactly.
Here's Chip. Even though it is a little quicker.
Chipper Jones, first time up, the only out recorded in the outfield here, a fly ball to right field. I'll bet you there are more double plays turned on turf too, because it gets to the infielders more quickly. Yeah, he was really excited talking to him before we did the interview in our open prior to the game about making the All-Star team. It's amazing. Here's a young man who's had a lot of success, but when you're around him, he's a mature kid, but you still get a lot of that gee whiz, aw shucks. Genuine. And he is genuinely excited about going to Philadelphia for the All-Star game. There's a strike for Chipper Jones, and it's 2-1.
And don't you agree that that first trip, that first walk into that All-Star clubhouse, when you look around and realize whose names you were being associated with?
I think that is one of the biggest things. You walk out on the field when you get a chance to go into the ballgame. It's 3-1 to Jones. Fortunately, I get a chance to go to an All-Star game, and my first one was in Atlanta. And I remember walking out in the mound and saying, well, I'm going to be cool, calm, and collected, and turn around and look at who's playing behind you, and promptly threw the first warm-up pitch on the screen. In the air to left field, a long run, but Rodriguez is there. And Chipper Jones, the only hitter in the lineup, getting the ball in the air, but he's got an 0-for-2 to show for it. And Fred McGriff will bat with 2 gone in the 4th inning. Well, for 2 days, you get to not try to get out the best or to try to beat the best. For 2 days, you get to enjoy being on the field with the best in your league, the best in baseball, and playing the best over on the other side. And it's, I think if you take it back to your Little League days, there's something special and fun about being an All-Star. T-ball All-Star, I don't care. It's just nice to be a part of a group like that. Curveball strike to McGriff, it's 0-1. Apparently, the scorer has made a change, the official score. They're going to give Lemke an error. Ground ball through into right field. Segui can't find it. And that's the first hit of the night for the Atlanta Braves.
That's a little bit unusual, seeing a scoring change like that made a half an inning later. Usually it's In the home ballpark, the reverse. If an error was charged, it's the home team calling up to the official score to kind of try to get a change to a hit. Not to have a hit taken away from one of the hometown players.
McGriff at first. Here's Klesko with 2 gone. He struck out looking his first time. One swing at the bat, he can get it back even. Outside corner, 0-1. Those are great first half numbers for Ryan Klesko. Throw in there 11 doubles. That's in going over the notes, getting ready today for the ball game. The one jumped off the page at me that he only had 11 doubles. He and Javi Lopez, not really many in the doubles column. But when you hit them over the fence, you don't have to run nearly as hard. He got an impressive double down in Florida, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Most of those doubles that he does have come within the last 4 or 5 weeks. He didn't have many at all for the first 6, 7 weeks of the season.
1 ball, 1 strike. And it looks like against the left-hander, Ryan Klesko, even deeper in the box. And
he's almost out of the box.
He's almost in the on-deck circle.
His front foot is right on the line.
And his back foot is outside of the box, too. So left-handed batter's box, just a memory. On the ground, right to Segui. He keeps it fair. And another ground ball out. The Braves do get a base runner. McGriff's hit the only one of the inning. He's left standing. We move to the bottom of the 4th. The Expos still lead it 2-0. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning. The Expos lead it 2-0. Andrews to lead it off. Cormier and Grzelcyk to follow. And those of you who were waiting for our Affleck trivia answer will have it after the first hitter. There's a strike to Andrews. Singled his first time up. Scored the 2nd run of the night. Expos with 5 singles. The Braves with 2 errors. There's strike 2. No balls and 2 strikes. A double by Tyler Houston scored Mark Grace and Luis Gonzalez. 4 runs in Chicago over Pittsburgh, 5-0 in the top of the 3rd. That's fouled away, and it's 0-2 still. Final game of the series here tomorrow. Our friends at Sports South will have that for you. And the Braves will go home for 4 against Houston before the All-Star break. On the ground, a smash to Blauser. He's got it, 1 gone, and here's our Affleck trivia question and answer.
And you remember the question, who holds the Expos record for the most hits by a shortstop in a season? The answer, Hubie Brooks, 163 in 1985. That record's probably going to fall this year. Mark Grzelcyk, with his first inning single today, already has 107 hits this year.
The Expo pitcher, Rheal Cormier, will bat with 1 out. He laid down a sacrifice bunt his first time. Smokes this one into right field. The numbers say he's 2 for 26, but he doesn't get cheated. That will be a base hit.
This ball was hit hard. Down and in, not a bad pitch at all from Maddux. Lemke just comes up a little short.
So the Expos will roll over to the top of the batting order. Mark Grzelcyk, he is single. And he's also grounded to first base. Fred McGriff with Maddux covering. First one is a strike. No balls and 1 strike. Tonight's the first time he will have gone to bat against Greg Maddux. He and Andrews both getting their first look at Maddux. Swing and a miss.
Very aggressive hitter, Don. A little unusual for a leadoff hitter. He doesn't walk much. He has only walked 12 times all year. Usually your ideal type leadoff hitter is going to have a lot of base hits and a lot of walks and a big on-base percentage. Well, he's got the big on-base percentage, but not many walks contributing.
Out of the same mold as a Marquise Grissom. He finds himself in a hole, 0-2 here. Did not go around in a change. It's 1-2.
The league only hitting .239 against Greg Maddux. His last 3 outings have been exceptional ones. Actually, his last 4. And he strikes out Grizzleanic. For Maddux, that's 6 strikeouts.
Got him to chase a pitch like this early in the count, so he went right back to it. Got him to chase it again.
3 starts ago, Maddux got 8 strikeouts against San Diego. He has gone above 6. The last time he did that would have been on May 17th against Cincinnati. He has 7 4 times this year and 6 4 times. So Maddux possibly on the way for a season high in strikeouts. Mike Lansing will greet him with 2 gone. He's 1 out of 2, a single and a grounder to Lemke. In the air to left field and deep. Back goes Klesko. He's got room. And it'll stay in the ballpark for Greg Maddux. Lansing comes up a few feet short. The Expos come up empty on the scoreboard. No runs a hit, no errors, and 1 left. We played 4. It's 2-0 Montreal.
Expos leading at 2-0. We go to the top half of the 5th inning. As we mentioned earlier, 6 Braves going to the All-Star game this year, and one of them, John Smoltz, may be the All-Star starting pitcher for the National League. His thoughts on that?
Just on the given past years, having 14 wins, I'm probably the odds-on favorite and will be selected as it. And it'll be something that I definitely will treasure. Again, it's kind of like having a feather in a cap, to where it'll last for just such a short time. You want it to last for a lot longer. And then you go back and try to duplicate what would be another good half, which that's a lot on my mind. Starting an All-Star game would be great. Doing successful or however I do would be great, but really being consistent in the second half and helping this team win another division title and go to the World Series.
Yeah, that would make John Smoltz happy. It would also make the Braves, his first half, an exceptional one. Jermaine Dye to lead it off in the top of the 5th inning. Dye, Perez, and Blauser. First 3 due up, 2-0 Expos. Rheal Cormier working on a 1-hitter, a single by Fred McGriff in the 4th inning. The only safety off of Cormier. 1-1 to count. I want to wish a happy birthday to a dear friend and Braves fan, Nancy Haney in Mars Hill, North Carolina. Happy birthday. Hammered, another chance for Andrews. He has been a busy boy tonight. And again, an accurate throw. 1 out in the 5th inning, and Eddie Perez, the hitter.
This is a pretty good play. I don't think he was quite sure he had this one at first. Ball sharply hit. Very little reaction time for Shane Andrews. You could see that he had to look in the glove to see if it was there. It was, and he had plenty of time to throw out Dye.
Perez grounded back to the pitcher his first time up. He's at .316 with 3 homers. And rapidly gaining respect around the league for his work behind the plate. By the way, I bumped into your uncle. He wants to know, do you know where your aunt's pen is?
Le plume de ma tante est sur la table.
Thank you.
I finally had a chance to use that. It's the only French expression I remember from high school.
2 balls and no strikes to Eddie Perez.
All these years I've been waiting for it to come up, but it never has until now.
Well, I will pass that on to your uncle. Three balls and no strikes to Eddie Perez. You folks in the Atlanta area or in the Southeast, don't forget on Thursday, the 4th of July, the Braves will host the Spirit of America post-game fireworks extravaganza. Still tickets available, 249-6400 in the area, or 1-800-326-4000. Ball 4 to Eddie Perez. That's news. Eddie Perez. Unusual night. Jermaine Dye gets his first walk, and Eddie Perez takes one with 1 out here. Only the second free ticket issued by Rheal Cormier. Perez will stand at first for Jeff Blauser, who grounded to third his first time up.
Only the 3rd time Perez has walked all year.
That number, the 800 number, 1-800-326-4000. That is always one of the best fireworks shows in the whole Atlanta area. So come out and see the Astros and enjoy fireworks afterwards. Blauser at 245. But that batting average could be a lot lower. He started off cold as ice. He's done a good job with runners on base. April, not a good month for Jeff Blauser, but as the year has progressed, he has climbed right up the ladder, and he turned June into a pretty good month, hitting .286 for the month. So Braves and Jeff Blauser will settle for incremental increases like that the rest of the year. Good curveball. Blauser this time finds himself in a hole 0-2. Pete Van Wieren, Don Sutton with you for 2 more outs. Dick Carey and Joe Simpson will wrap it up for you. Exciting series. You see people all around town wearing the Expos paraphernalia and a lot of Braves hats, jackets, and T-shirts in the area. But then we've got to where we see that almost every city we go into, even north of the border here. Perez at first, his 3rd base on ball of the year. 1 gone. 0-2 to Blauser. A little bit inside, 1-2. Inside corner, call strike 3. Blauser, no argument. He'll lug the timber back to the dugout. That's the 3rd strikeout by Cormier.
He's just simply making good pitches tonight. He has rarely fallen behind hitters. And he's been very aggressive when he does get ahead of somebody. No nibbling. He goes right after him.
And Maddux will try to help himself with 2 gone. Maddux first time up, grounded back to the pitcher. Out in front of the plate. I guess it was the catcher who made the play on Maddux. A tapper out in front of the mound. Segui in to talk to his pitcher, just to let him know he's going to be behind him. You don't want to come set and throw over there and all of a sudden realize your first baseman is about 10 feet behind the base runner. They're not expecting Eddie Perez to steal. Certainly not with Greg Maddux hitting. Out of play and 1-1 to count. We saw our buddy Ernie Johnson made it in today. He will be a part of the broadcast team doing the game tomorrow on Sports South. Inside corner, Maddux down in the count 1-2. Glavine against Urbina tomorrow. Glavine 8-5. He's trying to continue his good streak. Urbina 4-2. The 1-2 pitch to Maddux. In the air, right side, foul territory. Segui right at the rail will run out of room. And Maddux will get another swing on the house. It's 1-2. There he is. Ernie Johnson out getting some scouting in, doing some research.
He's barely recovered from the Brattleboro High School reunion. They got him working already.
Yeah, he said the 9-hole side hill lies and the, what did he have, a reunion of the semi-pro team he used to play with?
50 years ago, right.
And Lois, wife Lois, his high school reunion. Maddux is gone. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Cormier. And the Braves come up empty again. No runs or hits, no errors, and 1 left. Halfway home, it's 2-0 Expos.
Two to nothing Expos. We go to the bottom half of the 5th inning here at the Big O in Montreal. Rheal Cormier in control of things so far, and the Expos have gotten a couple of breaks.
Yeah, they have. The umpiring has not been up to par, really. But then we say that an awful lot. It's easy to sound like an alibi, but both runs that scored were on umpires' decisions that the replay showed were incorrect.
And for Montreal, Henry Rodriguez will lead off the bottom of the 5th. He lined one off of Maddox's leg his first time up, struck out in the 2nd. Chases a changeup, 0-1. Fastball to keep him honest, 1-1. Rodriguez with the base hit in the first inning snapped an 0 for 12 slump he was in. Tried to pull that pitch. It's 1-2. Rodriguez, Alou, and Fletcher, the heart of the order. Fairly high number for him entering the 5th inning. But has not yet had a 1-2-3 inning. Again, he tried to pull a pitch, and it bounces foul, just foul after trying to stay on the line.
Made Rodriguez look bad, and Maddux looked good, didn't it? Greg went over to get that ball, and Rodriguez never moved.
Henry must have known something that Greg didn't. A couple of errors tonight by the Braves have not figured in the scoring, but they had prolonged innings where Greg's pitch count would not be as high as it would have been. An error by Blauser with 2 out in the first. Error by Lemke with 2 out in the third. Got him with a changeup. Tried to pull another one. Came up empty. That's 7 strikeouts for Greg.
That's 84 strikeouts for Rodriguez, who's having a career year, but does strike out an awful lot. A lot of guys strike out on that pitch.
Yeah, they do. Came in 3rd in the league in strikeouts behind Sosa and Galarraga. You try to pull that changeup, and you're asking for problems. Alou struck out his last time up, but also singled back in the 1st inning and drove in the 1st run of the game. Some good news for the Expos today. A good medical report on Rondell White. He was allowed to start taking batting practice and expected to go on a rehab assignment the next few days. Might be back with the ball club within a week's time.
He's out of grade, Georgia, isn't he? Yeah, sometimes.
1-2 as that one's fouled off of Perez.
Yeah, it racked him pretty good.
Moise Alou, to say that he swings right down on the knob of the bat is not enough. He is actually off the knob of the bat. Barely has his left hand on there.
You wouldn't think he'd be able to hit like that, but he has proven conclusively that he can.
Yes, he can. Very strong. 2-2 pitch, 3-2. Maddux thought he had him struck out the pitch before. Perez framed the pitch a little bit for Paul Nort, but it didn't work. So it's a full count now. Then they go right back to the changeup. And not a very good one, and Alou fouled it back.
He got lucky that time. He got it up a little bit.
Certainly feasting on the left-handers if they can see a few more of them. Tried to pull a change up. Chipper should have him, and does by a step. 2 down. That's what makes his changeup effective, though, Skip, is his fastball is good enough, certainly above average, and he spots it so well inside of the right-handed hitters that they have to honor it. Then he just drops that changeup down and away, and they've already committed themselves. Darren Fletcher struck out, grounded out. Looking at the starting lineup for the Expos tonight, Grizzolonic and Andrews had not faced him, but everybody else in between a combined 160 average. But they've touched him for 6 hits tonight. Good pitch down and away. One more strike and Maddux will equal his season high in strikeouts with 8. He did that on the 17th of June against San Diego. That's when this good streak started. Out of play. Tom Glavine and Uguith Urbina tomorrow night to wrap up the series. Got him on a pitch inside. He fouled it into the glove of Eddie Perez. He holds on for it. That's ties his season high in strikeouts. That's number 8 on the night. But we go to the 6th, and the Expos are still on top 2-0.
Before we go to the 6th inning, a look at the Budweiser game summary. Cormier has outpitched Maddux tonight. A couple of umpiring calls hurt, but he has pitched the better game with a 2 to this point. And at the end of the inning, Maddux and the home plate umpire Nart had a few words together. And this is something you never see.
No, and he knows how to go about it too. He can say something, I think, that just to find out what he's got to do. As Grissom starts the inning with a drive to deep center. Back goes Cliff Floyd. It's a 2-1 game as he flies one over the camera positions in straightaway center. Marquise Grissom with his 3rd home run against his former teammates and his 2nd in as many nights. Good start to the 6th inning. It's a 1-run contest. His 12th homer of the year.
I think that's the furthest I've ever seen him hit a ball. He crushed this thing.
This guy doesn't allow many homers either. That's only the 7th he's allowed this season. Boy. 404 to straightaway center, and that was killed. Called strike to Lemke. Only the 2nd hit for the Braves. Lemke tonight 0 for 2 with a couple of ground outs. He sends one into right field and fairly deep. Alou goes back, but he's got a beat on it and has it backpedaling to the track. 1 out. Couple of good swings to start the 6th inning. Chipper Jones is flied out, lined out.
What do you think about an idea where rather than putting the manager on the spot and picking the All-Star game, let the league presidents do it? They don't do anything else. I mean, really, except suspend guys and fine guys. Manager's got enough to worry about.
Bobby has admitted he's been spending too much time having to put that together the last few days. I'm sure he's glad it's behind him.
No, I'm not knocking the league presidents, but let them do it. Take the heat off the manager. They have a huge input into it anyway.
And our congratulations to the 6 Braves who made it, including Chipper Jones. Jones and Wohlers named to their first All-Star team. That's great. The 0-1 pitch. Breaking ball almost hit him. 1-1.
The only one that I radically disagree with was Ozzie Smith. I'd vote for Ozzie today for the Hall of Fame. But he's not even the starting shortstop on his team. How can he deprive more deserving guys on that team? Or how can he be allowed to deprive? I don't understand that.
1-1 pitch bounced up the middle. Grizzolanic has an easy play. 2 out. I wish there was a wild card spot. You don't have to fill it. There's just a spot there for these special occasions when a guy like Ozzie is about to retire, for a guy like Dale Murphy who was in his last season, George Brett, whoever the case might be. There would be a special occasion for a guy to be on the team. You don't have to keep someone else off the team.
Tom Pagnozzi's had a great year. John Mabry's had a great year over there. They're deserving of going, and they are deprived because of Ozzie's presence on the team.
Griff has a base hit and 2 trips. Takes inside 1-0. Yeah, it could be a spot you don't have to fill every year. Just
or make him an honorary coach or something.
the way it is right now, Bobby, because he's been named to the team or chosen to the team, he's almost obligated to play him. If it were an honorary role, you wouldn't be. One and two.
I just feel bad for the guys. You never know if a Mabry or a Pagnazzi is ever going to have another shot. Hopefully they will, but maybe not.
Breaking ball in the dirt, bounces away. 2-2 to McGriff. I wish they'd let the players vote for the starters and let the fans pick the subs. Let that become the popularity part of the voting.
Or maybe they should weight it, players, managers, fans equally, 1/3 each or something. They're trying to get the best players.
Got him upstairs with a high fastball. Cormier has his 5th strikeout, but the Braves are on the board thanks to a long home run by Marquise Grissom, his 100th hit of the year. We go to the bottom of the 6th, 2-1 Montreal. That sounds like a good idea to me. But tonight the Braves are trailing it 2-1 to the Expos. And for Montreal in the 6th, it'll be Segui, Floyd, and Andrews against Maddux. Greg had his first 1-2-3 inning in the 5th. And he has tied his season high with 8 strikeouts already. Segui, a flare into left center, but it's tailing back to Ryan Klesko, who makes the catch. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Boy, some tough luck for the Reds today. They lost Hal Morris, hit with a bat, broken bat, when Derek Davis was hitting. Pete Schurik has had to go back on the disabled list. Willie Green, who's really starting to come for him, is also gone on the disabled list. Mike Kelly back in the major leagues. Recalled. Eric Anthony off the list.
Up the middle for Cliff Floyd. Backhanded by Lemke, and a nice throw. Didn't get him. Mark had to catch the ball and throw it all in one motion, and Cliff Floyd gets down the line quite well. It'll be an infield hit.
And Bonet got this one right. Good play by the Limmer, but Floyd beat the ref.
Yeah, I wouldn't be so sure that Bonet didn't just get surprised the first inning. Such a weird play.
Yeah, well, maybe so.
Shane Andrews has singled in 2 trips. Knocked down by Chipper Jones, but can't hang on to it. That may have saved a double. 2 on, 1 out for the pitcher.
Maybe he gets a double play on regular turf here. He did well, just as Joe said, to deflect the ball. It would have been a double down the line had he not gotten leather on it. Cormier got a base hit his last time, so he's proven he's no joke up there.
Yeah, he hit the ball sharply for his 3rd hit of the year. And also put down a good sacrifice bunt in the 2nd inning. Jerry Manuel going over some thoughts with him about this situation. One of the things they don't want him to do is, if he is bunting, bunt into a force out at 3rd base if the Braves put the wheel play on.
We got an out and 2 hits, and only 3 pitches have been thrown in the inning.
Let's see how Felipe Alou plays this one. He's got a 2-1 lead. He is bunting, but the pitch is inside. Braves were playing it straight up. How about this? How about playing it straight up? Let the pitcher cover the 3rd base line, but throw the pitch so slow up there that it gives you time to really get in on top of the guy.
It's great unless he swings.
Pushes it to 3rd. Maddux has to turn and fire to first and just got him. 2 out. Good bunt by Cormier on the turf. Runners in scoring position for Grzelcyk.
Everybody does well here. A great bunt by Cormier, a good play by Maddux. Watch him bounce off that mound. And he takes a look at third, knows the bunt is too good, and goes right. That's a bang, bang play at first.
Grzelcyk singled his first time up, first time he had faced Maddux. Came around to score the first run of the game. 0 for 2 since with a comebacker and a strikeout. Down in the dirt for ball 1. This is a guy that, he's a leadoff batter, doesn't walk much. Only 12 walks this year. 332 at bats. That's going to drive in a run, maybe 2. Here comes the throw. Andrews trying to score. He is safe at the plate. Eddie Perez thought he had him. Grzelcyk winds up at second, and here comes Bobby Cox. The throw was a little bit up the first base line, and that's exaggerating it a little bit. It was near enough the plate. Perez thought he had the plate blocked, came back with the tag. Grzelcyk comes through with a 2-run single. It's 4-1.
He hit a pretty good pitch, too. A breaking ball down, and he hit the daylights out of it. Let's see if we can tell.
I tell you, Eddie Perez tagged the bent leg on the slide, and I'm not sure that the front foot got the plate.
I don't know how he could tell from over there anyway.
I think he was in there. If his right foot got the plate, the tag came in behind the right foot.
Boy.
Oh boy.
That's a bang banger.
Yeah.
Either side would have argued on that one.
It's almost like Andrews' front foot went over the glove and then came down on the plate as the glove was tagging the back foot. Lansing has a chance now to drive in a run. 0-1. He did drive in a run with a 2-out single in the second. For Grzelcyk, his 29th and 30th RBIs of the year.
Eight strikeouts, 9 hits. Schizophrenic game for Maddux.
Tapper in front of the plate. Maddux will have to barehand and hurry. Can't get it down there. He throws it away, and Grzelcyk scores. A swinging bunt hit. I think Eddie Perez was pointing to first, but he probably should have told Greg Maddux, just forget it.
Maddux very angry with himself. As soon as he threw that ball, he knew he should never have done it. He had no chance to get the runner. Another good pitch.
You see Eddie there pointing to first.
He stopped pointing, but by then it was too late, I think. It's a hit in an air, and things looking a little bleak.
5-1. That is a hit and an error. Error charge to the Gold Glover, Maddux. His first error of the year. Braves cut it to 1. Expos came right back here in the 6th with 3, and they have another runner at first base. Last night the Braves did a good job of keeping the top guys in the order off the sacks. Tonight, Grzelcyk and Lansing 4 for 8 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs scored. A 1-hopper to McGriff, and Rodriguez will be handled here. Inning over. 3 runs, 4 hits, 1 left. We've played 6. Braves need a rally. They're down by 4. 5-1 Montreal now as we've completed 6 innings of play here at the Big O, and Felipe Alou making a defensive change. He's going to put FP Santangelo in center field. That moved Cliff Floyd over to right. Henry Rodriguez comes out of the ball game, and we go to the 7th. 5-1, Expos on top.
And Ryan Plesko leads it off for Atlanta. Plesko, Dye, and Perez the first 3. Ryan has struck out and bounced up. Breaking ball inside, 1 ball, no strikes. So from right to left in the outfield.
Yeah, I think I said Floyd went to right. He's actually in left field.
There we go. The pitch. Pop foul back. 1-1 the count. Joe's been very upset. They have a little automobile race between innings on the scoreboard here, and I've defeated he and Dave Baker 2 days in a row, and he's sulking.
Pick the best cars every time.
Brad Clounce in our bullpen. And another grounder to first. Segui goes to his knees, but whoa, he dropped the ball, and everybody's safe. The rhythm of that play was destroyed by the first baseman. We'll see who the air is on, probably the pitcher.
Yes, Segui couldn't get to his feet. He tried to, but stumbled a little bit here, so he just stayed on his knees. High throw, and Cormier had to reach up for it, look down at the bag at the same time, and didn't catch it cleanly.
Tim Scott goes to work in their bullpen. And we're lucky, both sides are lucky, no injury here. That's where you can step on a guy's Achilles inadvertently when he's got his back to you in that baseline. The air is on the pitcher. Well, let's get going here. Jermaine Dye, the batter. Fouls it away 0-1. You know the old saying, from little acorns, mighty oak trees grow.
I've heard that.
So maybe that air is the start of something.
Acorns and car races.
Tough double threat. 1-1 the count. Well, if Tony Gwynn can't play in the All-Star game because of his Achilles, I wonder if Bobby has to pick another Padre. I would think not, but I don't know what the rules are.
I'm going to disagree. I know you won the car race and everything, but I'm going to disagree.
You think he does have to get a Padre?
If each team has to be represented to the extent that you've got to go out and get some guys that don't even really deserve to be there from some teams just to have each club represented, then if one of the one-man representatives is injured, then the guy that was voted in, I would think you'd have to replace somebody from the Padres.
Chopper toward third, but foul. 2-2.
And the good thing about that would be that there are several members of the San Diego Padres that are worthy of consideration. Joey Hamilton, who has had a great year on the mound. Steve Finley's had a terrific year. He's already, I think, equaled or near equal his home run total, his career high in home runs.
After a horrible start. Remember how bad he was going when we were first out there? 2-2 pitch to Jermaine. Double play ball, maybe, if it's hit hard enough. Takes it himself. Good arm. 2 down. 6-3 double play. 6 unassisted at second. 6-3 on Dye at first. 2 down, and Eddie Perez comes to the plate.
Lansing just had to find a place to hide. Get out of the way so he didn't get hit by the throw.
So that air does no harm to the Montreal team. That should end the inning. Alou in right field waits. Inning over. No hits, no runs, an air, nobody left. Bottom of the 7th. All Montreal now. It's 5-1. We go to the 7th inning here, and Moise Alou will lead it off. Bottom of the 7th, I should say. He corks one into center. Marquise drifts back and puts it away for out number 1. Greg Maddux has pitched on. This is almost certainly his last inning. He's due up second in the Atlanta 8th. Darren Fletcher, the batter.
And I should have known better. I should have known better than to disagree with you on a night when you're on a roll.
I just got lucky. They don't have to select another Padre, but the National League, in conjunction with Bobby Cox, will make that determination. Our thanks to Mr. Clements in the National League office for responding to our question. Get him back on the phone. I got a couple more for him. Solid hit for Fletcher. Runner at first, 1 out. And David Segui is the batter.
It's the 11th hit Greg Maddux has allowed tonight, and it ties the most he allowed in a game this year, and that was to Colorado on that miserable day at Coors Field back on June 7th.
David Segui has really turned into a good hitter, hasn't he? He sort of came out of nowhere. Baltimore had him, the Mets had him, and he's headed for stardom up here. Clance again goes to work in the bullpen along with Pedro Bourbon. A little low, 1 ball, no strikes.
Doesn't strike out a lot, only 33 this year in 270 plate appearances. Pretty good contact hitter, both sides of the plate.
So let me get this straight. We lose 2 out of 3 in Florida and then come in here with Steve Avery, who had given up 44 hits in his last 25 innings and goodness knows how many runs. And he wins easily. And now you go with the hottest pitcher in baseball, Maddux, in his last 23 innings, coming in 9 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 17 strikeouts. And he gives up 11 hits and 5 runs. And is losing by 4. That's what makes it a great game.
Yeah.
No script.
You look at things like that on paper and you just wonder how in the world does it turn out that way. John Smoltz pitching against the Marlins.
Pat Rapp, who has lost 7 in a row.
Pat Rapp had been struggling and he wins.
If you're a youngster and you're thinking about starting gambling, let this be a lesson for you. Don't do it. Unless you're about to get married, that's about the ultimate gamble. 1-2 the count. Line to the mound out there. And out there, they've been hitting line drives up the middle all day, and Greg handled that one, and the inning is over. So the Braves get a double play of their own. 1 hit. No runs, no errors, nobody left. 7 innings have gone by. Montreal leads at 5-1.
Delta Airlines scoreboard coming your way here as we go to the 8th. Barry Bonds hit a home run today as the Giants have now won 2 in a row. Morandini a homer for the Phillies. Lance Johnson for the Mets. Gomez has hit his 13th home run tonight. Cincinnati leading St. Louis. Houston over Florida. In the American League, Kenny Lofton has homered for Cleveland. Bob Higginson has hit his 12th for Detroit. Bonilla and Palmeiro both homered for Baltimore. Williams has homered his 16th of the year for the Yankees. Tartabull his 10th for the White Sox.
And we go to the 8th inning. Jeff Blauser leads it off, and it's another one to Shane Andrews. We better try somebody else. He's had a lot of action tonight, and they've all been outs. 1 away, and Mike Mordecai will pinch hit here for Greg Maddux. Cormier threw 7 innings, 87 pitches. Maddux threw 7 innings, 97. Cormier 34 balls, 54 strikes. Maddux 22 balls, 75 strikes. Strike called outside corner, 0-1. Morty hitting .250 for the year. 11 out of 44, a couple of doubles. He's driven in a run. A little bit low.
Cormier throws across his body a little bit, creates a little movement on his pitches. That's been instrumental tonight in getting a lot of ground ball outs.
1-1 the count. Ball gets loose in the Atlanta bullpen. Maddux, 7 innings, 11 hits, 8 strikeouts, 5 runs. Five 11-1 for Montreal. Hot shot, but right at Lansing. 2 out. The way it's going, we're going to be out of here at a depressingly early hour. Here's Marquise Grissom, whose long home run has been our attack. If this stays the way it is, again, it will be a 3-game margin in the rubber game of the series tomorrow night. Whether it's a rubber game or not, Sports South will have it for you with Ernie Johnson and Tim Brando. Is it Tim or is it Ernie Jr.? I can never keep up. Well, tune in and find out. We don't know. Fly ball short right. Alou, a long run. He's low. He lets it drop. You forget that a guy will retreat on this artificial turf to make sure it doesn't go over his head. And he did the right thing with 2 out in the inning and a 4-run lead. Why give him a potential inside the park home run? Joe Kerrigan on his way to the mound to talk things over with Cormier, who has been brilliant here tonight.
This is his second best game of the year. He threw a 3-hit shutout at the Cardinals back in April. And I'm sure that was an outstanding effort, but I bet he didn't pitch any better than he did tonight.
Isn't it neat now the way the players and coaches cover their mouths so TV can't snoop because they're afraid guys are in the clubhouse? Really? Yeah, Braves in the clubhouse doing whatever and checking out what you say and reports it to the bench. It's getting more like the CIA every day around here. Mark Lemke will be the batter. Lemke 0 for 3 tonight, 0 for 8 in the series, and his average has tumbled from the 300 mark down to 281 in the last few days. Their bullpen is busy once more. Omar Dahl is the left-hander, throw to first, runner back. And Tim Scott is the right-hander.
And Marquise Grissom on his way to his second 100 hits. That was his goal at the beginning of the year.
He's right on target, isn't he? 1 ball, no strikes. Bad night for the Braves. 5-11-1 for Montreal. 1-3-3 for Atlanta.
Last time they made 3 errors in a game was early June against the Mets.
Not going to alibi, but a lot of people say, I know Bobby Cox feels this way, that when you have a rough night like the Braves did with that flight, it doesn't get you the first day as much as it does the second. I don't know if that's true or not. You got to give Cormier all the credit in the world, but we have not played well. Down and in.
It's a good at bat by Mark. Ball 1. I don't think he was swinging on the second pitch on a close pitch. He took it for ball 2, and he definitely was not swinging there 2-0. He's trying to get on base, set up something maybe for Chipper or Fred.
3-1. He might take another one. Let's see.
He might.
Jimmy Williams runs through the signs at third.
And it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Now Mel Rojas heads down to their bullpen, and Scott will sit down. They walked him. Braves have a 2-out chance here. A blue pit and a walk. 3 walks now for Cormier. And that was his 99th pitch of the game, so he shouldn't be out of gas, but he's going to get the hook here. And the left-hander, Omar Dahl, will come in and listen to the hand that the Canadian native gets as he leaves the field. And Dahl comes on. A lot of people on their feet here. It's a great shot in the arm to this franchise to have a native-born Canadian pitch like this. Back in a moment. Cormier went 7 2/3 innings. He also got a curtain call here. 3 hits, no runs to this point. The runners on base, his responsibility. 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, a homer. Dahl pitched 2 innings here last night. Walking 1, striking out 2, and allowing nothing. Chipper Jones 0 for 3.
You know, an interesting move here, too, by Felipe Alou. He admits that sometimes he does things just by feel, whatever his instincts tell him. He did that the other day in that pinch hit appearance by Cliff Floyd when he hit the 3-run homer. He had Henry Rodriguez on the bench, who's hit 25 homers on the year, but Floyd's the guy that he put up there, and he won the ball game for him. Well, here he had a lefty and a righty to choose from. He's had a left-hander already in the game, so Chipper's had 3 at-bats right-handed, yet he stays with Omar Dahl, and maybe it's because most of Chipper's damage this year has come from the left side of the plate. 12 of his 15 home runs.
Pedro Borbon is going to be the next Atlanta pitcher, and Mel Rojas is now getting ready and is about ready to go for them. Rojas is Felipe's nephew. Breaking ball a little bit inside. 1 ball, no strikes. Need a long one here to get back into it.
Sorry, that's the situation. Chipper, a lot of times when a pitcher comes in, he'll swing at the first pitch. He didn't get one close enough to even off right there.
Two and 0. Fred McGriff waits on deck. Dahl was with the Dodgers last year.
Like the Braves lead of yesterday. They had a 5-1 lead in the bottom of the 7th inning, but you weren't 100% comfortable with it until the Braves added to the lead late.
That'll make you a little more comfortable, though, I'm afraid. Hitting over. So Dahl comes in and does the job. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, 2 left. Bottom half of the 8th inning. Pedro Borbon on for Atlanta, but the Braves trail 5-1.
Here's what's on deck, brought to you by Armor All. One more game here in Montreal. That'll be on Sports South tomorrow. Ernie Johnson Sr. and we believe Tim Brando for the ball game. Then back home for a long 4-game set with the Houston Astros before the All-Star break. We'll have all the action for you right here on TBS.
Pedro Borbon on to pitch as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Cliff Floyd is the batter, and the count is 0-1. Cormier's final line: 7 2/3, 3 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, no runs, a homer. Floyd is 1 for 3. That against Maddux. Ground ball fouled on the first base line. 1 run. I think I said none. Silly me. See, Joe, I'm not right all the time. I don't want to break your spirit. That's why I said that.
I know. What a great pitching matchup on Thursday, huh? Braves come home. It'll be John Smoltz against Shane Reynolds. Smoltz looking to snap a 2-game losing streak. Shane Reynolds 9-5 on the year.
Tell you what, Smoltz is one thing different about him. He's gotten his clock cleaned his last 2 times out. I mean, it wasn't that he moped in the past, but he'd really get down on himself and be like Joe Glitzflick with a black cloud over his head.
Worried.
He's not that way anymore. He's confident he can bang right on it. 1-2. On the screen. They have Le Oeuvre here, which is French for the wave. Maybe.
I sure hope so.
God knows what I just said. 1-2 the count. High fly ball, center field. Grissom comes in a couple of steps, puts it away. 1 out.
Saturday, or is it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. That kid Mike Hampton goes for the Astros. It'll be our first chance to see him. He's supposed to be a good-looking young left-handed prospect.
Well, we saw him once. He stuck the bats.
That's right.
Right in our ears down there in the Astrodome. In the ninth, it'll be McGriff, Klesko, and Dye. Okay, Chuck, how do you say the wave in front? High pop, coming back and out of play. Andrews 2 out of 3 with a couple of runs scored. I don't know what that had. I don't know if it hit the glove or the mask. Sherman Obando is on deck. He'll pinch hit next.
Whatever it was, Eddie doesn't want it to happen again.
The wave in French is almost what I said. It's la vague.
Okay.
I have to remember that so we can talk about it at home. Here comes the la vague. Maybe not. We'll see. 1-1 the count. Breaking ball right in there. It's 1-2. They're vogging up a storm here. Missed, low and away. 2-2. Rojas will come in and try to finish this thing. Or so it would appear, with Obando on deck.
Gene Andrews thriving, getting to play every day instead of splitting time with Sean Barry.
Andrews out on strike. That deal helped both guys, because now Barry gets to play every day in Houston.
That's right.
2 out, and Obando, the former Baltimore performer, comes to the plate. He came over in the Tarasco deal, didn't he?
That he did. And now the Orioles are wondering just how much the Expos knew about the shoulder injury to Tony Tarasco that's required surgery. As if to say, if you knew his shoulder was hurt that much, then it could void the deal.
Obando hitting .252, 5 homers, 16 RBIs. As a part-time player, takes the strength. McGriff leads things off in the ninth for Atlanta. Alou could have let his pitcher hit for himself here and let Dowell pitch to the left-hand hitters to start Atlanta off. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't do that. But he knows a lot more about his team than we do. More than I do. I don't want to offend you.
No, you're on a roll tonight, buddy. You're the guy.
Tough play for Chipper. Got him, and the inning is over. Bourbon does his job in 1-2-3 fashion. We go to the ninth. Last chance for Atlanta. Braves trail it 5-1. We go to the ninth inning. Fred McGriff will lead it off. By the way, if you can't get Sports South, and if you can't pick up the Braves' far-flung radio network, the game will also be on some places on ESPN. I don't know exactly where tomorrow. You may have heard of that network. It's the one where all the sports shows, they don't talk about sports anymore. They just try to out-cute one another.
Oh, boy.
And away we go. McGriff 1 for 3. The other baseball, Florida and Houston 3-3 after 6. Cincinnati 2-0 over St. Louis after 5.5. There's that split finger. He's got a great one. Chicago 13-0 over Pittsburgh after 6. Phillies 3-2 after 7.5 over New York. Giants beat Colorado 5-1 today. 0-2. American League. Kansas City and Cleveland 2-2 after 8. Baltimore 7-2 over Toronto after 6.5. Milwaukee, Detroit 1-1 in the ninth. It's a game now in New York. Yankees 4-3 over Boston. McGriff out on strikes. 3 pitches. Chicago 4-1 after 5.5 over Minnesota. Texas at California. Oakland at Seattle later.
3 outstanding pitches to start the inning. Rojas 11 out of 14 in saves this year, but a rough ERA here at home, so that was a good start. He is 2-2 with a 6.27 ERA here in this ballpark.
He's one of those guys that one day will look absolutely sensational, and the next day, base hits fly all over the place. He gets them out more often than not, but when he doesn't have that splitter working, he gets lit up pretty good.
Yeah, he has to keep the ball down.
Plesko for 3 tonight.
I'm sorry, he does have a good fastball to go with it.
You saw it there. He's thrown 5 pitches, and they've all been in the zone. Two out. Jermaine Dye, our last hope. He's gotten him on 6 pitches.
Ryan thought that ball hit the dirt before he caught it, but Fletcher was able to pick it before it hit the dirt.
Let up a little bit high to Jermaine. Dye is 0 for 2. That's news in itself. He's also walked. Some days the other guys are just better than your guys, and this is one of those days.
Some days the breaks go the other way.
One and 2.
Braves will have Glavine tomorrow. The Expos will have their young right-hander Urbina on the mound.
The crowd on their feet here. They love seeing this. He struck out the side, and the ball game is over. Great job by Rojas, and the series is even. Braves win 7-2. Then the Expos win by a final score of 5-1.
And our AutoZone player of the game is starting pitcher Rheal Cormier, who pitched 7 2/3 innings of great baseball tonight. Gave up only 1 run on the home run by Marquise Grissom leading off the 6th. 3 hits. He walked 3, struck out 5. Congratulations to Rheal Cormier. We'll be back to wrap things up at the Big O right after this.
Atlanta Braves Baseball, brought to you by Delta Airlines, bringing the world to Atlanta as the official airline of the 1996 Centennial Olympic Games. You'll love the way we fly. And by Aflac. Aflac covers the unexpected cost of getting well. Aflac, insuring over 38 million people worldwide.
Greg Maddux has his 3-game winning streak snapped tonight as the Montreal Expos behind Rheal Cormier even the series at 1 game apiece and cut the lead in the East down to 3 games. You see the line score there. The Expos stranded 8, Atlanta stranded 5. 20,075 here tonight. A little bit smaller crowd, in fact quite a bit smaller than yesterday's Canada Day affair where 32,000 folks showed up, but a quick game, 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Okay, Joe, and the next Braves telecast tomorrow at 7:30 on Sports South. We'll be back with you Thursday at 7:35 against Houston from our stadium. Coming up next this week in baseball, followed at 10:30 by the TBS Prime movie. John Wayne stars in The Sons of Katie Elder.
Yeah, that's a beauty.
Oh, good. All right, who was Katie Elder?
Katie Elder was the mother of John
I know,
Wayne
but
and her brothers.
who played her?
She passed away. She was really not in the movie.
Oh. I see. Well, be that as it may, for Joe Simpson, Don Sutton, Pete Van Weeren, Skip Carey from the ballpark in Montreal. So long, everybody.
leading sports television into the 21st century. This has been an exclusive presentation of Turner Sports.